Thank you. It's a couple of minutes, a minute after 7 o'clock. I call the meeting to order. Hey, John. I did steal your agenda if you need it. If anyone's recording this meeting, would they make it known? I'm sure you don't want to play that.
How's it going?
Gave away all my agendas. I know it says approval of minutes, none, but we need to address the minutes of February 24th. There's 2014, yes. I guess there's been a Freedom of Information request, so. Do you need a copy?
Was I here for that meeting?
Oops, no you weren't.
In which case, I don't need a copy.
By the way, did you?
John wasn't there either.
I wasn't there either.
You don't want to critique it?
No. I've got enough paperwork in my life.
Did you get the note that I think you're up for reappointment?
Yeah, I told her I'd let her know in the next week.
Okay.
Leaning towards. No. Again, I haven't officially, but looks like I'm not. Be careful what you volunteer for.
I heard you.
We entertain a motion that we appoint Mike Fitzgerald to the Capital Planning Committee, representative from the planning board.
Oh, is that what the,
I'll second that.
so you're gonna make Charlie a citizen at large, is that it?
What does that mean?
Currently, we have
Oh, a
no
large
vacancy.
citizen, one or the other.
Currently, we have no vacancy in that position.
Oh, we don't?
Not yet.
I haven't officially put a letter in yet. But that's what I'm
You
gonna
stay in the planning board, though, right, Sal? No?
I've got enough meetings already.
You going for the new chief's job?
No. God.
Where Ron said?
Put a toll gate on the bridge for me, will you?
You got your own fight. Thank you.
Nightmare.
Count money? Yeah, well, sure.
That's turned into a... Can't believe how much time I spend in the district.
Anything to be said on the minutes of February 24th?
Looks okay to me. Michael? Entertain a motion to accept the minutes for February 24th, 2014.
I would.
Second that.
Absolutely a nightmare.
Excuse me, Bob?
It is on.
All the lights are on.
You have to get closer. I'll second
Do the air conditioners cause a problem for the mics?
Just have to speak closer to the mic.
Just background noise?
Need some new equipment?
I heard a motion. Was there a second?
I second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed?
Two abstentions.
Let's see. I will take care of the invoices that are here. Next up is a Form A for 11 Pine Street, care of GAF Engineering. Do you have copies of it?
Yeah, you should have copies there. You should also have the original Mylar. Paul Maddles with GAF Engineering on behalf of Phyllis and Sharon, the applicant. We're here before you to, with an approval not required plan.
Yeah.
No. Should be folded plans, 24 by 36 folded. They were folded, yeah. That should be on Mylar right there.
I'll give you the originals. John, do you want your own or you want to share? It's up to you guys. Don't get too close.
Plays well with others.
That's new.
What is she?
To share with.
Oh, you got just the slave one, yeah.
The property in question here is, could be identified as map 50D, lots 364B, 365, and 366. Also, number 11 Pine Street is the piece of property that we're creating the little lot, parcel A out of. Parcel A is going to be a piece of property that's been utilized by the applicant, Phyllis Ann Sharon, who owns number 2 Hoover Street and identified as lot 367 on the plan there. Parcel A is going to be a strip of land that's about 8.5 feet wide by 80 feet long, and the property line is being determined by an existing wood fence that's out there. So parcel A is not to be considered a buildable lot, and it's to be combined with lot 367 for a total area of 3,900 square feet, and the remaining land would have about approximately 8,100 square feet remaining.
Looks pretty simple.
Yes.
Just trying to.
Entertain a motion to endorse?
Any
Motion
questions?
to endorse.
Any questions, anyone? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Will you pass that to Joe so you can see?
It's the easiest vote we've had in quite a while.
That one.
Thank you.
I don't know if we want all the signatures or just the, I think just you or I can do it. Do you have any,
Only you.
I don't see the, is there anything else not fine
It's
underneath? Ah, there we go. Because been received and all that good stuff. 'Cause I don't see a copy of any of the three-part form. That's the back right there.
Thank you.
Next is a continued public hearing for S&H Realty LLC.
So he'll be speaking.
Just looking for current, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Barrett and members of the board. Michael Kiernan on behalf of S&H Realty. Jamie Anderson is here from R.J. O'Connell as the engineering firm on the job. Since our last meeting, a lot has occurred. On April 15th, 2014, the engineers and Charlie Rowley met. They went over all the comments and they agreed to modifications in compliance with those discussions. One other thing that was asked of us was that we show the permissible building area on the plan, not just where the buildings are, because at the moment we don't have tenants. That was done as well in the plans that were recently submitted to you at the end of May. The other thing that was done is we were asked to show the potential future building area. There's a green area on the bottom southerly portion of that plan. That was outlined as a permissible or a potential site of a future location. Jamie's going to run through all the major engineering changes, but most of them, I think all of them, are outlined in the May 22nd, 2014 correspondence and package that was forwarded to you. There was also in that package a spreadsheet we were provided the last time we were here. Mike Martin actually gave us a spreadsheet of a bunch of landscaping and other zoning issues to be addressed, so we painstakingly went through those. We actually added a column to that spreadsheet, and the last column is how we feel those issues are addressed. At this point in time, it's our belief the project complies with zoning and landscape articles of the bylaw. There was an issue that was brought up with regard to trees and, you know, what can we do to preserve some of the trees. What we've done there is the engineers have identified 7 potential trees more than 18 inches in diameter that can be tagged and evaluated prior to clearing the lot after approval of the project. We don't know exactly what the determination on those will be, but we have identified 7 trees that could potentially fit that bill. On the plans, we've also showed existing and proposed grades at those trees that we've identified as the 7 trees. The plan set that was submitted to you also shows conceptual elevations of the building facades and a cross-section looking in from Route 28.
That's 522 is the latest.
Correct. Yes, correct, yes. There was one other last-minute request that we have. We actually have a revised utility plan that we want to provide to you. Walmart had asked us if we could put 2 hydrants that are currently located on their islands, across the way from their island onto our island, which we have, Jamie's gonna provide you with those revised utility plans at this point in time. We also provided to you in that package a portion of the joint development agreement between S&H and Walmart, which talks about and speaks to the cross-access easements, allowing S&H and Walmart access to each other's property. At this point in time, I'm going to hand it over to Jamie, unless you have questions for me. Yes?
Do you have a copy of the list that Mike Martin gave you, that you say your name for everything?
Yeah. It should be in that package that was sent. If it's not, I got my copy.
He's got it?
Under the current plan, have you talked to Walmart at all as to how the interaction and what kind of agreement? I know you've got an agreement.
In terms of what?
In terms of engineering, how much of their site plan is going to have to be adapted to accommodate?
Pretty much the only thing that is going to have to be adapted is subsurface water and sewer, from what we can tell from our review of it and my discussion with the engineers. Otherwise, all the other changes are on the landlord or S&H's property. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is an accurate statement.
Let's see if Mike is, The other thing that was discussed was elevations.
Sure.
This can be found at the end of your set, the elevations. Here's sort of the color rendering, the preliminary elevation that we provided in the set. Sort of a Cape Cod feel. It's a very basic elevation plan. It shows the concept, the general architectural look of the proposed building.
Yeah, I meant to point that out. You do need the microphone.
So of course, at this time, without any selected tenants, the elevations would be subject to change. But we would like to think that this is a nice look for the area, something that is in concert with a Cape Cod feel. So at this point, all we could show at this time was a conceptual feel, subject to change. And of course, anything that does get changed would have to come back to the board. you'd like, I could go through some of the other major changes to the plans at this time if you'd
Sure.
like. Yeah.
If you would.
If you want to flip to C4, the color version of it is up front here. On sheet C4, we've added several internal landscaped islands throughout the site. Throughout to reduce the number of parking spaces from approximately 180 to 174. The parking chart itself has been updated to reflect the layout changes. Also on sheet 4, the layout of the parking lot at the southeast corner of the buildings right here has been updated to reflect, has been redesigned to eliminate one of the 3 points of entry on the original design plans. So currently at this location, we only have 2 entrances to the site. Also on sheet C4, we've added several ADA ramps throughout the front and the side of the buildings along the sidewalk for accessibility.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Right there, this is your entry right here, look at your plan. That's where you got an entry? Right next to the future building? That's one of the entries?
One of the entries is right here, yes, correct.
Okay, and the other one is up to the far right.
We have an entry here as well. Formerly, there were 3 sort of entries right here. There was a different layout.
Yeah.
So there's 2 in that area now instead of 3.
So what happens with this future building? What happens to the entry?
What happens to the entry? It would remain. The future building would remain. The future entry would stay the same.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. And the other 2 entries are here and here along. Also on sheet C4, we've added a gate for access to the retention basins in the back. On sheet C4 as well, a portion of the fence around the retention basin is now proposed to be a 6-foot high cedar fence in order to screen the service area in the back. Previously, it was all shown as chain link fence. On sheet C4, we've also revised the height of the lighting pole heights down from 40 feet to 20 feet on 3-foot high bases. So basically, we reduced the height of the poles in half. Based on the revised pole height, the photometric plan was also revised, and the number of poles has increased from approximately 8 to 14 light poles. I'll shift over to sheet C2. There was only one real change on this plan. We added a dry well location to infiltrate any overflow that may occur for anything larger than a 100-year storm from this retention basin. It's located right down here at the southwest corner of that retention basin. I'm sorry, that's not the only change. The other change was a major change along here. We've reduced this pond at this location to be a much shallower and much flatter, sort of a 5-to-1 grading slope for it to be a bioretention area. And we've also introduced a subsurface infiltration trench, sort of in this parking area shown in blue. We can move on to sheet C3. The new one. On sheet 3, C3, there's really only one change. It's the location of these 2 hydrants. Formerly, where they were in Walmart end cap islands here and here, they're now located on the out parcel. One here and one located up here on this retention basin area. And that's on the new plan.
And that hydrant location was for Who again?
The hydrant location, Mike Martin did want 4 hydrants. And just to get the hydrants on our site, we continue to have 4, but we're shifting them onto the our parcel.
For this out parcel only, or?
There's a total of 4 on the out parcel only. And we shifted 2 of them to be on our site.
And that was reviewed by the fire department?
This most recent plan has not been reviewed by the fire department. I have additional copies for them. The old location was reviewed by the fire department, yes.
Okay. Just the number seemed excessive to me, so.
The number of 4, yeah. That is sort of excessive, but that was at the request of Mike Martin to put 4 on the plan. In fact, one of them will be built by Walmart. It's along the top. The one along the entrance near the top here.
Yeah.
That one's a Walmart, and we have 3 of our own. Finally, I can flip to the landscape plan for some changes to that. So in order to meet Article 10, we've beefed up the landscaping substantially, especially along the perimeter. We've included at least 10 or 12 more of these shade trees along the perimeter. And again, we've included several locations of additional islands here, here, and here with more shrubs and trees provided. Again, this plan, if you look closely, it does show the 7 existing trees to be tagged and evaluated. They are a little bit hard to see probably on your set. They're very, very light. There's one here. There's 2 located in this vicinity over here. And there's another 5, I think, or 4 located along the perimeter here. Again, we'll evaluate those and see, just to see if they're going to be able to be maintained and kept in the future. And I don't
what species tree is left?
we don't know. That the survey does not give a species, so just the location and size. I'd have to assume it's some sort of a pine, though. But without being sure, we would tag them and figure out what the species were. One last one I can show you. Sheet L3 in the set. It's just a sort of a cross-section through the site to give you an idea of it's the elevation change from Route 28 on the right side of the sheet. Coming down a gradual 4-to-1 maximum slope in the buffer area along Route 28. In this case, there's actually additional buffer area here, which on the plan, as you can see, is down here, and that's actually in the background. This gives you an idea of the spacing of the trees that are going to be planted in the parking area. Gives you a relatively good idea of how flat the surface will be in the parking area. It'll be relatively flat. Here's another example of the elevation of Restaurant B and how we anticipate it to look. And that's the majority of the changes that we've made.
What are you thinking of in terms of phasing this construction timetable? Do you have one, or?
At this time, we do not have a construction timetable. As far as phasing, I think that we would build the 3 buildings that you see there at the same time. The 3 proposed buildings, but in reference to Walmart phasing as well, or are you talking about just our own site?
Well, both. How are they going to interact? Or?
I mean, ideally, we would interact as one during the construction cycle. We would like to be going at the same time as them, provided that we can get tenants signed on board. From a cost standpoint, it would make the most sense to get everything going, and to do that at the same time.
Questions, anyone? Michael?
Could you tell us what the plan is? I know the future building area. For now, what's the plan? Will that just be graded in grass? or
Correct. That would be graded in
Green
grass.
space?
Yeah,
until
and
you- until you
there'll be a
develop it?
few planters that would sort of go along with the future building location. But yeah, mainly just grass, a grass area that would sort of infiltrate into the ground.
And could you also educate me a little bit on parking? Parking space, 174 spaces, and based on the 3 planned buildings, and I know it's impossible to speculate on the 4th building, but where did you need to be for parking spaces, and how have you satisfied that?
So in one of my response letters, which you would have received, I've sort of itemized some of those items. So there's a couple of different things we're trying to meet as far as parking. Of course, the town being one of them. And as you're aware, the town's requirement for some of these uses is quite low as far as the standards that some of these tenants would require. The next thing we looked at is the ECR, which is the joint agreement between the tenants, and that is dictated mainly by Walmart. They do have a very high number required, and I can list them off for you here. Like typically, for a restaurant, they would want 10 spaces per 1,000. And for retail, they would like to see 6 spaces per 1,000, which would end up being a total of 151 parking spaces. Based on this plan. Another column we have on that chart is parking spaces required per tenant. Again, usually that's about 1 space per 3 seats for a restaurant, and 5 spaces per 1,000 for retail. That gets us up to be about 153 spaces. Again, we don't know who the tenants are. That could be sort of back and forth with the seats, the number of seats for the restaurant being the biggest part of that equation, I would say. So,
And based on the anticipated future building,
yeah.
how will you fall at that point?
Oh, I think we would sort of be right on, at that point. Yeah, with the future, we don't want to overpark. We don't want to build pavement that we don't have to, but we want to be where the tenants need to be, I guess.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the board?
I have just a couple of questions. During the, back in the day when you had your joint meeting with on this Walmart thing with zoning, all the conditions and that were put on it, did they relate to the entire piece of land all the way down, Mr. Chairman, for this out parcel? Or did it stop at a certain point? Now, I'm looking at this list from Mr. Martin, is pretty extensive of things they were supposed to do, and I guess we'd have to ask Mr. Rowley if he checked all through these, but my point is this, my question is this. I mean, when I was on zoning, when I was a selectman, I recused myself from the Walmart thing because of business purposes, so I never went to the hearings, followed it a little bit. But it seemed to me, it took a solid year or so to come up with conditions for it. And I'm listening to this gentleman in 5 minutes saying, we met that, we met that, we met that. I'm kind of perplexed that how did they meet all that when it hasn't gone back to zoning yet, or it hasn't had a joint meeting with you and zoning who set all those conditions. And I only say that with things like access, granting access, and what have you, flow of traffic. Is there something in your information that the applicant can give us that the Walmart people agree with them cutting across the main lot and stuff like that? I just don't see it. I see that the main entry in from Toby Road into the Walmart site, these people are going to be trying to take a left into their site while people are trying to get out. It doesn't make sense to me that was all granted and approved. So I'm just asking, were the conditions set for the whole piece of land or just for Walmart itself?
Just for Walmart.
Just for Walmart. So, Mr. Chairman, then my question to you is should we be sending some of these some of these concerns that the zoning member had here back to them for review at the same time that we're reviewing it?
Well, I think what we need to determine is, does the development of this corner require the Walmart site plan to go back for modification?
Well, that would be my point. That would be where I was heading, and I'll only show see up here, is that driveway there goes all the way down to Walmart? Is that on the Walmart plan, the entry there?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
So to me, step one, we need to see what that affects for the Walmart traffic. Because as these people here that are in this area here want to go out these entries, you've got to cross traffic there. Never mind the flow of traffic in there. The interior of the parking lot, you can go into Lowe's, you can go into Home Depot, you can go anywhere you want, and it's a mess. But the entry, the flow of traffic in and out, you're affecting the initial store that took a year to grant a permit for. And you're just crossing traffic back and forth over it. It's just my opinion, fellas, but it doesn't seem right to me.
Well, I think a lot of that, John, was, we knew that out parcel was gonna be developed later on along the project. We knew that was gonna be one of the main accesses to that out parcel. And in my opinion, I thought that was taken into consideration.
Okay, well, that's why I'm asking you, if it was planned on during the time.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, because I wasn't at those meetings, that's why I'm asking you.
And at that time, we didn't know exactly what or where it was gonna go, but we knew it was gonna go in that general area. So,
So in fact, this is actually a note on the approved Bowler plans for Walmart that says pavement striping to accommodate left turn lane for potential future development. So that would be right on the plans, and that's something that obviously at that point was anticipated.
Well, like
In
I
fact-
say, I stayed out of all those hearings.
I can give you a
for-
copy of
for
this
other
plan just so you
reasons.
have it.
I can get into the plans if you want, the Walmart plans, I do a lot of them. Okay. So then, Mr. Chairman, that answers my question. If it's right on the plan, then you guys figured for that. That's all I was asking, is all those cars coming in to go straight to Walmart, now there's a crossing pattern. That's all I was asking. So that's one. The second one, question I have, Mr. Chairman, is just a buffer zone. I heard for a solid year, they'll cut down the trees, they'll cut down the trees. So all along Toby Road, we're leaving all the trees that are there. I mean, I went by there just now, it's pretty thick down there. You're leaving all that, or you're cutting that all out and putting new trees in?
So we're mostly cutting the trees down and providing brand-new trees along there, but of the 7 trees I mentioned that we were looking at to potentially keep,
Yep.
4 of them are along Toby Road.
Yeah, 4 trees out of, I don't know, a couple 100 yards probably? All right. And that, again, I would ask the peer review, does that meet what we need for landscaping buffer zone on that face?
well, me as one member speaking, I think, looking at the landscaping plan and what's there,
I'm
most
asking,
of that growth is probably, in the last 25 years, scrub pine,
yeah,
which is kind of rough looking.
yeah.
Personally, I think the landscaping plan was pretty good. I think it could definitely improve.
Okay,
That's my opinion, sir.
that's, yeah, and I'm just giving mine. My opinion is, I don't like it. That's my opinion.
And I can add, the minimum buffer depth along these main roads should be 10 feet wide, with the appropriate 40-foot on-center planting of shade trees. We're at a minimum of 15 feet in that buffer zone, all the way up to 100 feet in one certain area.
Yeah. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll just look through these comments from.
I'm just looking at the decision from the Walmart, just to, it does make mention of any modifications going back to them. them being ZBA, for determination whether it's a minor modification or requires, but I think that would be something they would do after they're finished at this point, so they know.
Sure, I understand that. I think that one of the hurdles they'll have is that traffic flow, but if they've got that note on there that says that it would be striped for a potential developer, that'll kill one of their arguments right there, but there seems to be a lengthy list.
And I can add some comfort level to that. We will need an access permit, an indirect access permit from the DOT for this off-site work. They will take a look at some of the access and traffic even within the site. And we will only get that permit if they're happy.
I'll just ask one more question. Has this latest set of drawings been reviewed by our engineer?
I have a question, a couple of questions. The 2 patio areas that are shown next to each restaurant, is there gonna be outside seating?
Correct. Yes.
Did you add that to the total for the parking?
That is included, outdoor seating is included in the seat count.
So
Aye.
120 seats and 210 seats includes the outside
Correct.
patios?
Yes.
Okay. And
It's not on the-
has this fairly close to finalized plan been, again, I think it was asked earlier, is the fire department reviewed this to make sure that the turning radiuses and hydrant locations, because they're more important to the fire department than they are, obviously. The water department wants X number of hydrants, but the fire department may want them near a certain location, close to the fire department connections for the sprinkler systems, for the restaurants.
I don't see it.
You know, it should be reviewed by them for access
Yeah.
and for locations of those hydrants.
Yes. Is it Captain Dykes? Yes.
Captain Dyke.
I
Did he provide you a letter saying that he's reviewed it and
I did
finds
not
everything
receive no letter, but
and we need a copy of
Okay.
that to go with the submittal?
I did receive from him the actual vehicle dimensions, and I did run the truck
Yeah.
through the site, and he was more than happy to have more hydrants than less.
Oh. At the location, sometimes they'd like to
Sure.
have them close to fire department connections.
They
so
do,
that they
yeah.
don't have to block in a bunch of cars if they had to lay a line.
Typically, no more than 100, no less than 100. Nah, I'm getting it backwards. Sorry. No more than 100, no less than 50 feet. So.
As long as Captain Dykes has seen it.
Yeah.
But again, a copy of that letter would be helpful to put with the packet, showing that they had approved it.
I will ask for that letter.
On the patio subject, could you touch on, I saw the fencing, could you touch on what that is? And maybe it's here, I just didn't see it. For the patio areas, how will you be blocking that off from general public and protect the people that are out in patio areas?
There would be some sort of a decorative fencing, I guess, up to the tenant to decide exactly how they want that to look. But it would definitely be cordoned off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly sure what type of fencing they would like, but it would be some sort of a decorative style.
Okay. And my other question is in reference to the street sign. I didn't see any, maybe I missed it, but any drawings of what that's gonna look like?
The Walmart pylon sign,
Yeah, well, are you gonna share that?
we are going to share it. It's already been approved. And
Okay.
It's got its own approval at this point, yep.
All right. Thank you.
I don't see.
Retail. This is on, I'm just gonna put a note on this quickly. should come in there.
Yeah, idea. And go get their munchies. Okay. I'll be a partner. When was this done? May 22nd? Why hasn't Charlie seen it? Peer review.
Like your sign. When I was going through the ZBA's decision, and it doesn't reference the cutting of the out parcel, but that's entirely in commercial strip, so
was our-
that would have been in our decision, which I don't have a copy of. And for that matter, any modification made is also within the commercial strip. So, you mentioned earlier that you went through the peer review letter and answered all of them, or responded to all of them? Could you use the mic, Charlie, just so?
It sounds as if the majority of what we talked about has been addressed.
Mhm.
From my recollection of what we did, what we talked about, I have not seen the final plans, and there were some things that were mentioned that are new to me.
Mhm.
So if you want me to give you a final say-so on it, then I'll need to take a look at those plans to see exactly what they contain. Much of what Mr. Anderson did address with you, though, it sounds like it's in compliance with what he and I discussed.
Mhm.
We did discuss the possibility of a building perimeter area.
Mhm.
If you go with the elevations that they've shown, I think that makes it in compliance with the requirements to show you elevations. And you may want to consider at some point in your decision that when you write up your special permit, that you make a condition that if the changes that they require because of a new tenant require a change in the look of the building, that, as has already been suggested, they need to come back. But I'd be happy to look at the plans if you want. I just haven't seen them yet.
Anything else?
No, I didn't get any. I got a PDF from Jamie a while back on one of the plans that showed the rate. I haven't seen any.
We're sorry that Charlie didn't get a copy of the set. I sent an extra set of everything in to Brenda for that reason, and I just figured it got to him. But my apology.
Our planning department is a little disarrayed too, so it could have been on our end, so. We'll make sure he gets a copy. Is there anything more that we're looking for here? Is there anyone here this evening that would wish to speak on this? The only, the one particular condition that I was looking for in the ZBA's decision was, I believe there was a condition that this corner wouldn't be clear cut until development, which this plan kind of addresses that, providing they will take place within a certain period of time. But other than that, that's the only thing that I can recall. There was some language in there regarding what was a modification and what wasn't. On the surface, anyway, I don't see that it meets the need to go back to the zoning board for a modification. That's my opinion. I don't know how you folks feel about it.
Well, I think initially when we started this whole process on this whole parcel, that the out parcel we knew was gonna be developed at a later date. And the thing is, maybe it's a benefit that it's all being done at the same time.
Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't have done the whole plan at one time. I think that would have saved everybody a lot of grief.
skipped this hearing, I could have bid this one.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you, all I cared is that after a year-long process for the Walmart, which includes part of this, I just wanted to make sure that it gets done right. Now, Mike tells me he's happy with the landscape, I take a look at it, I heard things for a solid year, it won't be clear cut and all that, and then that's what's gonna happen, so. The only beauty, I guess, if there's any beauty, is it'll be nice when it's done. I think we've got the right people involved in doing it. And I think if Charlie takes a peek and just confirms that these things meet what the comments were, I'd be happy. I mean, you know, I know of the applicant, I think we'll get a nice project here. I just want all the conditions that were put in there, if they relate to it, I want them covered. That's all, that's just my opinion.
Well, John, I think you could get a lot of comfort in taking care of the tortoises.
I saw the pictures, yeah, that's good. Well, that's it.
I don't want to smell turtle soup when I go by your house.
Tortoise.
Tortoise?
Found one behind our place, we put a new septic system in,
Uh,
and the guys told me after 11 o'clock.
Anything,
I was gonna put in the blocks and then
any other
it's pretty-
requests of the applicant?
Believe so.
So, I guess the plan would be to give this information over to Charlie for review and check with the, also forward it to ZBA. And I think the only reason that I could see at this point that would require going to ZBA would be in the case of a drive-through. If you requested a drive-through at any of these tenant locations, that would require a variance, I believe. I've expressed my feelings on that in the past, but they don't count because they're not in the bylaw.
Mr. Chairman, will we be getting something from the fire department? Once you present the plans to the fire department, will we get something in writing that they've
Yes,
reviewed the
we should.
changes? And could we ask for that?
Mhm.
Make sure we get some.
So I would,
I make the motion.
I think just for the, I think we should continue to the 23rd, just so we can pull all this together and come up with a finished product without having to reopen a public hearing. Does that work for everyone? Does that work for you, Charlie?
Yeah, I can have my work done. I can contact Jamie if I have any questions. What's your proposal for a special permit? Will you be writing up an approval and conditions at the next meeting?
I'll hopefully have a draft when we come in.
Okay. I will get my comments to you as soon as I can, but well before the next meeting, so you'll have them for reference.
George, you think would it be proper if Charlie seen anything that was obvious that he can work directly with the engineer before they come?
Oh, yeah, I think we've granted that in the past, and I hope it would continue, that if you have any issues, you can work it out directly with R.J. O'Connell. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
So-
Motion to continue?
So that's the 23rd's our next meeting, right?
I'll second that.
Very good. All those in favor? It's 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
Who's the man standing up with the blue blazer on? Talking to Charlie.
That's the guy from Martin's Bowling into
How's the turtles going, Scott? Have they caught any yet?
turtles are all done, I think.
Have they caught any?
There may be 5. They're supposed to be public tomorrow.
Okay, because we have one down our way, down our shop, just looking for a new home, so.
Mike, I thought you put out 6.
Well,
already booked them.
we needed one down our way.
I know you fellows aren't on the record anymore, but is this really anywhere now, or are we?
You're on the home stretch.
Yeah.
You turned the corner.
Well, we turned the corner one other time, it was another year.
Well, it wasn't there then. I stayed out of it. I was interested in that Walmart and it's a pain in the neck, but I was just disappointed. I kind of thought that the buildings would be down lower towards the road and the parking would be on the other side.
Continue till when?
Well, that's the thing. I go in and build them.
Yeah.
So see, I look one step beyond you. You know, they draw them
I am going
nice.
to Georgia
you
the
get in there and
26th.
say, geez, we're jammed.
I'm moving furniture.
All right, Mike Martin says they're the worst
I'm gonna
thing
be able to sleep
Oh,
there.
that, yeah, Mike's strong-headed, but behind it, I was just nervous behind those buildings where you got the little retention ponds and the dumpsters or whatever.
Actually, you know, I have a good
It's gonna be a
friend,
nightmare.
Dennis at DMC Racing, whose brother lives
One
down
man's
there.
opinion,
That's what he
but
does. He's a policeman
We don't want it to
during the
look
day.
bad.
No, and that's
And
why I said
he's
to you,
a
I think
carner.
we got the right,
And
you
he
know
goes
what
around
your name
and
on some
buys
piece of crap.
cars
I
out of barns.
understand that.
He buys about 10 a year.
It'll be
Cleans them
nice
up, fixes them
in
up,
the
sells
end,
them.
it's just getting there.
Nice.
Hopefully when they get there.
Looking for anybody to work full-time doing that?
You know,
I
considering?
you know,
think the fire
about
department
10
gives
years
them
ago, my
their
friend
charge
Brian and
for
I
us.
decided we wanted to try that, see what it was like. I mean, we were both looking for time.
Deal with your engine.
So we would meet at night, we'd go buy cars.
Okay,
We made
fellas.
$45,000 in one
Good night.
year buying and selling old cars. Then we got lazy and stupid and we started buying projects, and that's when we gave good, we started a propane company.
Next, we have a discussion of Brittany Drive off of Hathaway Road with Mario Devona.
Yeah, Mario Devona, Maplewood Village LLC. In regards to the road completion on Brittany Drive, I'm, due to weather conditions, market conditions, every other condition you can think of, I'd like to try to extend that from June, I know we're supposed to be completed by June 30th, to November.
Could
We
you
couldn't proceed.
pull the mic a little closer?
Sure. You know, with sales and we're non-existent actually, and with the weather and Congress and multitude of reasons I'm sure you don't want to hear about, we need some sales, which we have now. So what we're anticipating on doing, we have finally get the model sold, and we have pre-sold, and I've already talked to the bank. Part of the problem was the bank they're very, very conservative, and they said, well, you know, you sell this one, and we'll let you start the next one. Well, that didn't happen, so. And so as of right now, and I talked to the bank, and told them, I said, look, I said, in today's market, it's very difficult to sell from a model. People, they want to walk through the house, they want to kick tires, and that's what's been happening. So where we are right now with this is we have the model sold, we have a pre-sold, we have the other foundation. So as soon as within the next week we'll be framing the other house with the foundations in. So that'll give us 4 foundations in. I've made arrangements with another lender in addition to the lender we have to put the rest of them in. So through the summer, I want to get all the foundations in, all the framing, so we get all the heavy construction done, and we'll be doing the sidewalks and trees and things throughout the summer. So after Labor Day, when most of the heavy construction, concrete trucks are out of there, and big heavy trucks for septic systems and stone and so forth, we'd like to proceed with the road. I say November, but we'll probably have it done prior to that. And then we'll get it as-built, and, according to the planning board's regs. I mean, we're just trying to, I really would, honestly want to provide, a nice pristine road rather than try not to trash it with the heavy trucks. So I want to get as much heavy construction done as we can. And that's, so I'm just looking for an extension to the 1st of November. 15th of November would be good, but whatever.
Discussion?
Is, the price of asphalt, or whatever it is to take to finish that place, is it gone up in inflation in the last 4 or 5 months? Or is it pretty stable?
Not really.
You know, because if we say, you know, let's go for a 6-month or a year extension of whatever you're looking for, when we get further down the road, is there gonna be enough funds here to finish the project?
I think right now it's protected by a covenant, all right?
It is. You have 50% more than agreed cost,
Mhm.
so. We're only talking about, you know, a couple of months. We're not looking, believe me, I'm not looking to drag this out either. You know, I just want to be prudent and.
Well,
you know.
I just asked that, you know, because I'll tell you, it was a long winter,
Sure was.
long winter.
You tell me about that, I know. Probably, I've been doing this quite a number of years, and this is probably the worst one I could ever remember. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was brutal.
But we got through it, you know, and so the activity's beginning to pick up. I mean, for the longest time, it was just completely dead. It was like a shock. But it's beginning to pick up, and we do have some sales. So we will work diligently through the summer to do most of the heavy construction, and then we'll complete it in the fall.
How many
I mean, the
commitments-
bank has the extension anyway, you know, the bank can come in and do it as well, so that's under the agreement, I mean, so it's not, we're not really extending anything, if you know what I'm saying, you know?
How many units do you have under agreement now?
We have two, but
Two
the thing is, it's
signed.
not so much what's under agreement, but we're pretty confident that once we get them up, they'll
Yeah.
sell. I mean, that's the way it's been, but you know, honestly, you bring people into a model home, and the realtor tells them, oh, this one here is gonna be just like this, they don't believe you. You know, they wanna see the house.
Right.
So I had a discussion with my bank and say, if you're not willing, I can understand you're not wanting to assume any more risk, that's fine. But I have other people that will come in and give me what I need to complete this. So if you're not willing to do it, I'll bring additional people, get another lender in for additional construction mortgages and complete this place, because the only way it's gonna get sold is if I can get the buildings up. And so that's what we're proceeding with.
How many units were there? 6.
6, yeah. Yeah.
This subdivision's over 10 years old.
Mr. DeBona, could you tell us, since we last met, what you have done to the road, not necessarily each lot, but what has been accomplished? I know you were working on items, but I can't recall all of them off the top of my head.
No, we have all the curbing in, we have, the status is the same. We didn't do any sidewalks,
No,
no. We
They're
have all the
great.
curbing in, we have the binder, we have the drainage, we have everything. as
and you
to-
fixed all the, I remember the manholes were an issue that you were...
Yeah, they're all,
You
we
were-
all, you know, we put some hardtop around those so the plows wouldn't, yeah, that's all been done.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that we're gonna have to, there's repairs that are gonna have to be done.
Sure.
You know, we'll come in and, of course, what I'll do is, when I'm ready to, through the summer, I'll have Charlie come down and we'll go over what he feels should be repaired. You know, we do understand there's certain areas that have to be repaired.
Yeah.
Just
The
to
base, yeah.
correct what I said, it was the covenant was replaced with a tri-party agreement.
Right.
That's correct, yeah.
which I'm looking for the actual document here. I believe your lender was a party to that agreement, right?
He was, yeah, he still is, yeah.
So I would think we'd have to get them on board with any extension that we would grant, because right now, I think if the date in that agreement's not met, they have, what, 1 year to complete?
1 year. Yeah. I've already met with the president of the bank, and
Mm-hmm.
he knows I'm coming here tonight. And I think he would agree to, well, let me put it this way. If he has, the bank has 1 year, so if we're looking for, you know, an extension, say July, August, September, October, okay?
4 months.
And then we use up
For a 4-month extension.
if we
I don't
use
think
up
so either.
4 months of that 1 year, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then the bank agrees, and then now we only, if he doesn't perform by that date, now we only have 8 months. So that date's not gonna change.
So that's what you need, a motion here?
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is that in order to change that, we'd have to create a new document that has the new dates in it and have it
Yeah,
recognized by your lender.
Right, my attorney would have to, I guess, do an amendment to the covenant, and then the lender would have
That
to
was
be
recorded.
signed and notarizes it well. That's, you know, I'm just here tonight to, you know, ask the board if they'd go along with it, and then, of course, we'd have to do the legal document that would be necessary to amend the tri-party agreement, and it would have to be signed by myself and the bank, obviously. And we would prepare that document. The end date would stay the same? The date would stay the same, yes.
Well, I mean, we can state that, but if his bank doesn't feel that way, that's, we don't know why that agreement isn't right with the other section, but.
So Mike, you're not catching any bluefish? Really?
I don't care.
Which house is yours, the yellow one?
It's beige.
With the big stone wall? The one with the sale sign.
Little stone, it said stone on the front, yeah. You can stop in anytime.
I was going last week, I was out there last year with Peter. Was in that area.
Look, Peter, look.
Peter, the one? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's Peter.
I don't think I know him.
We used to have a student baker.
Used to have a Studebaker?
So, it's past me.
What was it?
41 Cooper.
Must be cool.
It's done by the corner. Yeah,
The
the old
gray,
station area.
the gray car. The diamond car.
No, it's not red. He had a stick, old station wagon. He red and all. White and black.
He's the fellow that you said might sell his house. I looked that up, but he only has an acre of land.
I thought he had one.
No. I did. I looked it up in the town records.
For the kids. I think they should run improvements.
Yeah?
Yeah, he doesn't have a year. The lender doesn't have a year to complete. They have till April 30th, 2015.
What's that, I'm sorry?
The lender has till April 30th of 2015 to complete,
Oh, okay.
should you not
Mhm.
deliver. What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Give them a 4-month extension.
Second.
Per, with their updated agreements, signed agreements, and I believe that has to be recorded, does it not, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, this is a recorded document, so you'd have to update this, and we'd have to get something from your lender that they agree to it.
Oh, yeah, what I have the attorney do is draw up an amendment, whatever they call it. And I would, once she draws it up, I'll drop it off at the planning board office for your review. And once you guys, you can tweak it if you want or whatever. And then we'll have it signed, notarized by everyone concerned, including the bank and myself, and then we'll bring it back to the board for their signature.
The planning
That's
office,
acceptable.
Well, Dave is,
Covering,
Dave and Kelly are covering.
Dave's covering. Mm.
So, I don't think we can vote for it as such now. We can give you the direction that we're willing to grant you the 4 months, and when you come back with all the documentation, we'll...
Yep. Well, yeah, what I'll do is, we'll have it drawn up and we'll drop it off at the planning board office for your review.
Mhm.
And if there's any,
And we'll take it up on the next agenda.
yeah, and if there are any, changes you may want to make or whatever, at that point, yeah, we can do that. And then we'll have it signed, notarized, and recorded, and
Yes.
get your receipted copy.
Sounds good.
When's the next meeting?
The 23rd.
23rd, okay. Okay,
Very good.
done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did I lose a rubber band? Next up is the peer review of Dollar General. You should have Charlie's comments in your packet.
Yeah, there was a lot of questions. Did you see it? A lot of questions.
Did I miss one?
You did, you missed Brown's Liquors.
Oh, I did. I skipped over Brown's Liquor Store. Just a brief update on that. The owners have requested replacing the mulched area with grass.
Well, we thought grass was coming, they got
And-
finished the grass.
My response was we would welcome that, but I thought I'd keep the board informed.
Aye.
I think we do have a modified plan, but basically it was
Shrubs and there's a weeds.
mulch around the plantings and grass, everything else. Hmm?
Yeah, the plantings didn't survive.
Well, we got a 2-year,
They'll grow someday.
no, the weeds will grow.
Not in my lifetime.
There's no plantings. It has to go through 2,
Well, there's a rhododendron that's about this big.
One.
It ain't happening. They
Yeah.
killed almost everything.
Can I ask a question too about all the posters and the signs? What is that? Am I getting off track?
What is it?
All the posters and the signs all over the building, what is that all about?
It's temporary, it should be long gone.
That's an enforcement issue with
that's-
the,
That's exactly right. During all the discussions on zoning for years, when they come in for a sign, they'd say, oh, you can get a 2-sided sign. The next thing you know, all their windows are full. So then they came up
But
with,
they-
well, you can only do 20% of your window, then it was 33% of your window. It's an enforcement thing. They're not supposed to have any of them.
Well, it just doesn't look
Not
right.
just them,
Yeah,
everybody.
well, it's not very attractive.
It's signed by our place.
Okay, who's enforcing? Can I get that job?
It's restaurants about
Seems to
services,
be-
code,
Will you pay
code
me?
enforcement
Will you
officer,
pay me?
80 grand a year.
it seems
I
to
mean-
be prevalent at all
I think,
packages to us.
They all do.
well, I think.
Like you don't know what the cost of a 12-pack of Budweiser is.
Well, the drugstore, what's it, not Oscar, what's it, I know. Right on the corner of that plaza there at Shaw's, what's that?
Right, Abe?
Right, yeah, they're windows, you can't even see the windows.
They don't have windows.
Oh, I know, it's all signs.
It keeps the place cool. I think what we do, we're gonna override 2.5 in a couple of weeks. Chair of the Selectmen, I think what we need is hire a sign puts to go around. I'm looking for a part-time job.
Don't be spending the money
me.
before they get.
So Alan, can you take note of that and bring it up at your next meeting?
It's all set, don't
We need a sign cop.
I have more qualifications, I think my eyes are better
It's
than
No,
called,
no, I don't like anybody. I'll be a
Anyway,
good sign
grass
cop.
is
it's
good.
called, it's called the code enforcement.
Anyway,
officer.
that's the story on Browns.
Sorry to bring that up, Mr. Chairman.
Can
Who
we?
started this? John started it. See, we never had discussions like this when you're not here, John. We're usually all business. Okay, I'm sorry.
Wow, we on the love in the room.
I'm sorry. Okay, next, I'm sorry.
I don't know if, how much of a chance you've had to review Charlie's comments, or?
I think I actually have the response letter here,
Oh,
as well
okay.
as the updated plan set and other documents that would support the letter.
Mhm.
I can hand them out right now if you'd like.
Sure, that'd be great.
He's very efficient.
Boy, I'm glad you come with that, the response letter, because when I read Charlie's report here, I was getting awful nervous. I thought your boss was coming back from Tennessee.
I know, we're all good. So I have copies of the letter. Would you have me hand them out individually?
Sure, if you could.
I can help you.
Have
I'll
you
do
seen the
it if you want.
responses, John?
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much.
You can share with me.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Official version of this. Signed graphic.
Open it up. And there it is, the beautiful side.
Looks the same, except the dimensions are different now.
Is that a stalker by the sign, or is that just to give us a proportion?
Stalker.
Okay.
That's the guy from Tennessee.
Yeah, that for effect.
That's the guy.
the White
Pine Motel. Oh,
These are reduced copies here. Just reduced that.
Oh, okay.
And then these are the current DOT plans for the road.
Their plans?
Their plans, yeah.
Okay.
You'll notice that they were kind enough to give us a small draft stamp.
Subject to change without notice?
Yeah, so that's what.
It does, as we suspected, stop short of this property, or?
Yes, it does. You mind if I hand these out to the members so that they can have the reference?
Not at all.
It's much better than the other guys, even for the Robertsons. This guy is confrontational, he doesn't wanna. Thank you. Is this the same as this?
Same
just
thing, just
smaller?
smaller version, yep.
Perfect, thank you.
So easier to
Handle.
carry around, yeah.
don't read the second page though.
No, it's a little small. I flipped by it.
some things in here which I think are going to be easy to say, yeah, you did, you took care of it, especially on the detail sheets. Those are small things. I think the biggest issue is going to be, I believe there's a couple of parking issues that I've got. And then there will be perhaps some discussion on the sign because it's in, I believe it's a strict commercial district. And it allows you up to a certain number of square feet, but I don't remember how this gets interpreted in this new sign law. We'll have to look at that separately.
What is it? 75, 75. Where? What is it?
Well, 1 inch line, I'll get you out and,
Minimum is 8 and 6. Yep.
was there a hearing or something? You watched it later, so.
I see a lot of revises. How's the phrase? Revised as requested, so that's a good thing. I guess the best thing would be what's outstanding, what's left.
You want to hear from me, or do you want to hear from the proponent?
Absolutely.
There are some things that are in the letter that clearly, they're non-issues with respect to the details in the latter pages of the plans. I think if you go from sheet 7 on, the majority of what's in there that I had called to their attention, I think has probably been taken care of, although now that I have a new set to look at, I can check each one to be sure. I think the biggest things that are outstanding to me and that we have not come to an agreement on is one of the remarks that I made with respect to the entrance. There are 2 proposed entrances on this site, one of which, as I understand it, was requested by Onset Fire because they couldn't get their aerial ladder into probably what is the smaller of the 2 access points, and so they got one that was further to the east. It's much wider so that they can get in there, and they can get, if they have to get their ladder truck in, they can get it alongside the building. My concern is with the other one. The layout of this building is very similar to one that is in West Wareham, where the Dunkin' Donuts and the Anchor Liquors is, and the American Pizza. When you ride in that entrance, all the parking is in front of the building, directly in front of it. My experience going in there almost every day to get my mail is that if you've got people in those spaces that are directly in front of the entrance, if they're trying to back out as soon as you're coming in, you have to stop in that entranceway to wait for them to make their turn, and so you can get out of their way, or they can get out of your way. if there's anybody that's wanting to come in, I come in from the west, if anybody wants to come in from the east, which they do frequently, they're gonna get stuck in what amounts to be a good wide shoulder. It's a paved shoulder. That's not so much of a problem as it will be right here, for two reasons. I think the proximity of the building to the pavement of Cranberry Highway in this area is smaller, and there is no real paved shoulder. I mean, the travel lane is right there. And I'm sure all of you are aware of the significant amount of traffic that that road takes, especially during the summer months when people are trying to get off at the East Wareham exit to go down Cranberry Highway instead of getting in the bottleneck for the Bourne Bridge. They want to get to the bridge as quick as they can so they can sit in the traffic around the rotary or even head down to the Sagamore Bridge. They don't want to get stuck in that 4 or 5 mile backup, so they use Route 28, Cranberry Highway, frequently. My concern is with that exit, with that entrance, is that if somebody stops because somebody's trying to get out of there and they're waiting in that entrance and somebody else tries to get in, they're going to either block the traffic or there could be an accident. I put in 2 alternatives in my report. One was to eliminate those 3 parking spaces that are directly in front of the access, or eliminate that smaller of the 2 access points. From the traffic studies that have been provided, the peak hours being in the early morning and in the late afternoon, it would seem that the amount of traffic that this particular project is going to receive and see may not be sufficient to require 2 points of access and egress, especially with the wider one. Now, I realize that Mass Highway is going to be the ultimate authority on who decides who gets what, but I think that it's more than just an issue with MassDOT, it's an issue with the planning board also, to be comfortable that we're providing to the owner of the project and also to the traveling public that we've got a safe egress and safe access into the site. So that was the reason behind that particular comment in my letter. There were a couple of other smaller comments there about, you will see on the plan that there are 3 small process areas. One is in the, if you're looking at the plan, it would be the upper left corner of the parking area. There's another one right at the front corner of the building, that's a little triangular area. And I think there's another one at the far right corner of the building. I don't see why those areas couldn't be made into landscaped islands rather than simply striped. It will add some amenities to the project. I made note of that in my comments. The other major comments that I have are with respect to the waivers that have been requested. And I'm not an attorney, but I have worked with the Board of Appeals, the zoning bylaws substantially, worked with the planning board rules and regulations, and I don't see anything documented in the zoning bylaw which gives the authority to the planning board to waive the requirements that are required under site plan review. I believe it's section 1520, if my memory serves me correctly, says that all of the requirements of site plan review are required for approval. The things that are being requested for waivers are basically curbing, some of the landscaping in the front, which is the mounted area. There's supposed to be a 2-foot high mounted area in that front buffer yard. The island and the front landscaping area is wide enough that I think you could accommodate the 2 feet without it being a significant issue. It's not as if by planting that island, all of a sudden you're going to get opaque visibility to parking. That may have been the thought at the time that that regulation was written up, but it doesn't work and it doesn't make any sense. Nevertheless, it's a requirement and I think it has to be shown. So any of the waivers that are being requested, I would encourage you to take a look at it, because I really don't think that the board has the authority to grant those waivers. The Board of Appeals does. And if the building inspector were to write a letter denying the site plan on the basis of it not being in compliance, it would then allow the proponent to go to the Board of Appeals to ask for those waivers if they wanted to. But I don't believe, having looked at things and been involved with it for so long, feel that the planning board has the authority to grant those waivers. Those are the main things with respect to the plan. With respect to the building, I did make some comments about that. The building is essentially a metal building. It would have a concrete block face facade on the front that you would see that would be painted to sort of either contrast or be similar to the rest of the color of the metal, whatever that will be. Part of the architectural requirements is that there be some vertical separation of vertical architectural features to the building which break up the long expanse, especially if the building is more than 100 feet long, which in this case it is. It's about 130. So what you're seeing is a small glass area in the front where the entrance is, and presumably there's sliding doors, and then the rest of the whole facade is all block and steel front. So I think that there needs to be some work on that to make it compliant with the architectural requirements and regulations for site plan review. But as I say, the other detailed things that deal with the site details, like the bioretention areas, some of the details that I mentioned on the stormwater, those things have been addressed. I haven't looked in particular detail to each one, but I feel comfortable that they probably will be fine. But these other issues, I think, are a major concern and something that I'm sure the proponent will want to speak about. So that's basically what I wanted to bring to your attention.
They're at their minimum parking now with a turning lane alleviate that. Condition. See, there's room between the edge of pavement and the highway layout line.
We'd have to coordinate that with,
That would have to be
With-
subject to Mass Highway.
that's something MassDOT would look at. In regards to that particular access point, you know, as everybody is aware, the fire department has requested that access as a life safety issue and providing a secondary means of access to the site. The trip generation and the expected traffic volume that Dollar General is expecting here, I believe it's roughly 10 trips an hour, something to that effect, is very, very small, and accordingly, we wouldn't expect that there would be conflicting turning movements at that driveway, in particular, given the fact that the site has 2 points of access to it. We're comfortable that that access driveway and that entrance are gonna operate effectively, and the entrance, or the drive aisle that is in front of the store is larger than you would normally have, primarily as a result of, one, the life safety issue for emergency response vehicles, and two, the ability for the loading vehicles to use that as the turnaround area as they would back up to the loading dock. So there's more than enough room for two vehicles to coexist in that driveway.
Well, I think the two driveways work, especially when you get a delivery or trying to get a delivery. I also understand the point that he's made with the people trying to pull in when somebody's backing up. Comments? You got a comment?
A number of the issues that Mr. Rowley brought to our attention are issues that we questioned when the applicant first presented their proposal, and some of the items we discussed, and some of them seemed to be, as the applicant said, would be like a deal breaker, because the applicant is the builder of the building, but not the actual tenant. And you touched on a number of items that we also questioned, and we certainly tried to work with the applicant, but we questioned, you know, the look of the building. To us, it was horrific. It was homely, and they said that that's the only plan that Dollar General offers. So we took that as gospel. The other items that you mentioned were the parking spaces or the pavement with no internal landscaping in the parking area. And I think that the board's feeling at that time was the parking area was so tight that we were concerned that by putting in the landscaped areas that it would just make it even more difficult for customers to maneuver, and it was a safety issue. But we agree 100% with what you're saying. Unfortunately, the other item that you mentioned was the 2-foot berm at the street. Our thought was we certainly want it to be a safe environment, and we were concerned that if it was there, would it be a safety hazard for people entering and exiting the facility? And where you've shed some light on that, I think that's helpful to us, because we didn't know enough how 2 feet would affect the visibility of the drivers. So
I don't think that would be a real issue, because when you're talking about 2 feet, that's well below the sight level of anybody sitting in a car. And so long as you don't have obstructions right at the points of access and egress that obstruct your view of oncoming traffic,
yes.
it wouldn't make any difference whether you had the 2-foot berm or you didn't. You don't want to have obstructions there so that your line of sight is obscured. So I think with respect to the building itself, even though that may be the standard Dollar General building, I think there is plenty of possibility to ask for some amenities to go along with that. I know that that's always in some of these larger box store franchise type things, that's what is always said. But I think as a board, you also have an opportunity where these kinds of situations develop to augment that with some things that aren't significantly different, that cost them an arm and a leg, but at the same time improve the looks of the building so it isn't just a long strip. So I would argue that there are some things that maybe you could take a look at, and architecturally they could take a look at. Some of the things that are suggested in the architectural section are, well, sort of windows. As a matter of fact, it calls for a certain percentage of windows, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a window if it turns out that security is an issue. I mean, there are places where display areas could be boxed out so that people can't get in there if they were to break a piece of glass. But it does help to break up the long, monotonous look of the facade. If it turns out that that access point is going to remain the second one, I think there is room. If you look at the left-hand side of the plan, there is a significant area to the west, or to the east rather, of that drainage area. If you had to modify the parking just a little bit to add 2 or 3 spaces somehow, by perhaps reorienting the spaces a little, you could take those 3 out and put them in. There's also room to the right. If you eliminated 2 or 3 spaces there, there's no parking really to the right, because if there were, you'd be backing right into the cars. So next to the west end, you'll see that there are 3 bumper strips that are proposed there. There's no way you could have parking spaces there, because if somebody was using it up against the building, they'd back right into the cars. So there's a possibility that you might be able to relocate some of them there. One of the other areas that I'm not sure, it was a comment that was made in response to my review, was that crosshatch space which is to the left-hand side of the parking area to the left of the building. You'll see it's crosshatched and it says it's proposed, 4 foot wide with white lines.
Yeah.
4 inch wide with white lines. I'm not sure why that's there. Those are dumpster pads that are right next to it. If you've got a good-sized truck that's gonna come in and pick up those dumpsters, he's not gonna be able to back into that space. So that is an extra parking space that could be added. I think there's a way of maneuvering that around so that if that second entrance is allowed, that at least for those 2 or 3 spaces that are right in front of it, they're not gonna be backing out right in the line of traffic coming in. And I sincerely believe that that is a traffic safety problem for Cranberry Highway because of the amount of traffic that's there.
And are you suggesting that they become a landscaped area? Is that the thought?
They could become a landscaped area. It would not impact the site adversely because you wouldn't have people backing out right in your direct line of travel.
But not as deep into the parking lot. They would be, instead of being 19 feet deep, they would maybe be half of that, so that there's still some...
I don't think it would be a problem if you made them the depth of the depth of the traffic,
Oh,
of the parking spaces.
okay.
I think it would work either way. Because you're not gonna have that, cross movements of traffic to impede the travel, either coming in or making a turn to get out.
I was just thinking if it was shallower, as cars come in, those vehicles that were traversing the parking area could be a little bit further away from...
Well, rightly so. The travel aisle, once you get beyond the islands, in the landscape islands and those parking spaces,
Yes,
normally that travel aisle would be 24 feet wide.
right.
This particular one is 30. So you've got a little bit more space. So I don't know that I don't think it would help any if you tried to move that landscaping in. I think it could be kept in line with the parking spaces without any problem.
If you move that driveway down to the far right of the parking lot, wouldn't that eliminate the issue? You just,
Would that,
Well, unless you're going to remove the parking spaces that are right directly in front of it, I don't know what good it does to move them. Maybe it would make sense to slide it a
well,
little bit to the west.
You'd only lose one space, right?
Mr. Chairman, I think one of the comments by the neighbor was the fact that he enjoyed the fact that the vehicles weren't entering right at the lot line, so to speak, if I remember correctly, because he was concerned about, because his neighbor across the street is so active with lights and noise. I mean, not that Dollar General is open odd hours, I don't think they are, but I know that that was one of his concerns, was to keep the vehicles entering away from his property as much as possible.
It wouldn't if you kept these, but if you relocated them, it would.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at it,
Yeah.
saying, hey,
If
if you put a
one space,
landscape area there, then you basically cut off the whole right side of the parking lot.
Right, that's, I saw the same things.
and you put
You
one
come
in
out,
here, you pick it
you
up.
don't put it near the park there anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I asked the applicant where this Dollar General sign is going to be located.
It's,
Yeah.
no,
I didn't see it on here. Oh, it's over
Right to
here.
the left of the bigger entrance, Charlie.
yeah, that, the applicant, Charlie, changed the design of the sign per our request, but also pushed it back on the lot, because we were concerned about visibility.
That's
So
right, because it's a two-sided sign.
Correct, but they shrunk it in size, and they also moved it back, was it 2 feet or 4 feet, I forget, but on the lot, you moved it back, I thought, for...
Yeah, we did, we shifted it further back.
I
yeah.
forget exactly, but it was 2 or 4 feet, Charlie.
Okay, that was my concern if it was out front here.
Yeah, we brought
That
that
would
up.
really be a problem.
And the proposed sign is significantly smaller than the original proposed sign.
But I think the backing you're talking about is if you have parking like this, you have a backing area here, so these people can back this way. The fact that you've got a backing area here is part of the loading. Anybody that's in this space can surely back out, even somebody that's in here can back out because the fence is right there. And this is gonna be a paved area or an apron anyway for the loading dock, so.
He said that that was the only design. I asked twice.
Right. There's gonna be a fence across this, so they're not gonna back into that. Yeah.
It's a tough site.
It's a tough site, but
Yeah, it's 36,
if
so
they
you
can
got
revise the
another
building,
12 feet on
I'm
that
voting
side.
against it anyways, because he
I
lied
don't
to me.
think that's even required.
I'm done. We don't get to lie to me.
What did they lie to you about?
I asked him if that was the only design, and he said yes. I asked him twice.
So that one, and if you
It's ugly.
put the 3 parking spaces in
It's
here,
like something you and I built.
and, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop them there. And this became an island.
This is the thing. This is the, that's the rendering, and
No, Brown's into the Mexican prison.
That's the corner lot, you don't see that.
that's the one from Florida that he showed us, and he said that this one is the only one that they put in Florida, and that this is the new design for the smaller building, 9,200 square feet.
This
The
space,
detail on this
this space,
is changed in that the doorway actually bumps out.
Right, he did say that.
Which
He did say that.
does kind of break up the front a little bit.
it does,
Mhm.
because in my experience working at the other place,
Yeah.
if somebody's backing out.
But back when we developed that,
Better looking than Kent's Well.
the change in texture between the
They
split
stop
front
there,
You probably
anybody
approved him.
that wants to make that turn,
Well,
they're
version
Neil,
would
he had
back.
the design
gonna be
studies, he
right
told
over
us.
line of traffic,
ever
backing
deal
the
with
line
him?
of traffic out this way, because they're traveling as they
I
go.
haven't known people in a while.
I realize this is wider than normal, but
Looks better than the white pine.
Well,
the fact
simple.
that the travel
Close stuff.
surface is
John, when we were reviewing this the first time, we were
gives them no
you know,
room in a hard machine.
all concerned about the horrible looks of the building and expressed it. But the applicant, who is the builder in the property owner, told us that that's the only design that they approve, that Dollar General will
The
approve.
only thing is, I wouldn't want to
That's all they'll do.
guarantee that, knowing the volume of traffic that's on this road, it's horrendous. When you try to come out of these places,
Yes.
especially if you try
I'll
to
be
make a
gone when the road's
left-hand
wide
turn,
anyways.
now especially with
The
two,
landscape, or what's it?
you gotta really be careful
Landscape.
about what you're doing.
Yeah, but it's gonna stop just shy of it.
Well, there will be landscaping.
Yes, it is.
There wasn't
It's not
before.
supposed to go like this.
Charlie, I don't know if you, the
We won't be
original
around.
picture
We
they
won't be
submitted to us,
You will.
the latest design, the door
We've been
area
waiting
actually
24
bumps
years now.
out
It's already in the plans.
a foot or two.
That's the way it's shown on the plan, right.
Yeah, okay, so.
So
There
this,
is a-
this picture is not the same as what's on the
Right.
Correct.
plan view, right.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Gage had mentioned that the stock elevation comes from a different part of the country where they don't have to do the airlock up front, so that bump is incorporated to buildings where it actually snows.
Right. He did say that.
That feature is what prompted my question about ADA, whether or not the 3 feet right there is gonna be enough.
Yep.
I think we passed that. What's the total square footage of signage?
These
Between,
bollards are
between the sign that's on the front building and this secondary sign.
120.
I think that's 5 from here to here, but the
And the
bollards-
double-sided sign only counts as one,
Yeah,
correct?
120 square feet.
Just the double-sided sign, like,
Yeah.
It's just the sign. We changed it because that was, originally that would give you like 60 square
that
feet per
sign's
side.
24 square feet. It's 24 each side, but they only count it
As long
once.
as there's a 4-foot access
Change
to
it.
it,
And then when you
which
add
is
the
the minimum required,
Bigger.
Whatever that
and
is in
the
the
doors
wall.
don't swing
Bigger.
out,
Size.
then I think you'll be okay.
What, is it 120 square feet?
You didn't like the both sides of the sign?
We didn't think it was fair to count it twice when it's a single sign. It's a monument sign.
I agree with you. Yes.
So Mr. Rowley and I were just discussing, in particular, the access driveway and the potential for the relocation of a couple of parking spaces. I think what we could do, we could find, at a minimum, I think we could find a home for one of those parking spaces, and what we would do is relocate that parking space proximate to the loading pad where the dumpsters are. There's currently a striped area there. That was included as our interpretation of the zoning ordinance for a turnaround where you don't have, a full loop access, where it's a dead-end access, for example. I think Mr. Rowley and I are in agreement that there's sufficient room, especially with the width of that driveway at the loading area, for a vehicle to back out of that space. And we have the little hammerhead at the end that will enable them to kind of tuck into that as needed. The option of relocating some spaces to the west end of the site where we have those 3 wheel stops was discussed, but we weren't necessarily all that enthusiastic about the movement that would be required for a vehicle backing out of that parking space. It would essentially be backing out parallel to the front of the building until it could make the turn and then exit through the lane, so it's almost a little bit more uncomfortable. You're relocating a problem, and I don't know that it's any better necessarily, so we think we can relocate one space without an issue. I don't know where the other 2 would find a home on the site.
I think we can do one more, and I would be happy if we can do the 2. Over in the far west end, you've got that crosshatched area that's there also.
It's the size of the parking area.
Yeah. I think if that were made a parking space, and you eliminated 2 spaces, which would be, if you notice the little handicap signal there, there are 2 handicap symbols. Count over from that symbol, not including the symbol, 1, 2, then eliminate the next 2. In other words, beyond the handicapped, you'd have 2 spaces.
Yep.
Then the next 2 would go and would become a landscaped area. And then the others could remain. You'd pick up the additional space where it's crosshatched, and you'd pick up an additional space over in the far corner.
I think
that
we can
eliminates
accommodate
2,
that.
which are directly in front of the
And
access. I think that helps.
I don't think I would bring it out the full 19 feet of the landscape area that is. I don't think I'd bring it out that far because it's gonna block people.
Would make it harder to back out of the space. If you make it shorter, it would make it a little easier.
You could shorten it a little bit, but typically the landscaping does have a radius on it anyway, so
Yeah.
you're not coming out to a sharp curve.
I think maybe, I'd honestly prefer it to be a full length of the parking space, as it would protect the vehicles that are in there. I think maybe as a compromise, rather than having the typical 3-foot radius on the end of that, maybe we make those radii a little bit larger to facilitate that vehicle swing around the corner, while certainly meeting Mr. Rowley's comment. I think that's a good compromise. If the board's amendable to that, we'd be happy to make that plan change.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would think that would work out without,
Is that gonna create any problem with snow
of course.
plowing that parking lot?
No, I think snow removal actually,
Place to push it.
no, I think the snow removal operations with a small internal landscape island like that, or some kind of raised feature, isn't going to appreciably affect how they're going to get rid of snow out here. It won't be the first time a snowplow driver's had to deal with a parking lot island either, so, I think we could make that work.
And I would say if you need a little, if you need a foot or 2 to make the other 2 parking spaces to the right work.
Yeah, we can do some shifting. Those 2 striped areas that were considered, or that we're going to make parking areas, were originally included as our interpretation of the zoning ordinance requiring the striping for the turnaround. But given the nature of the movements and the fact that we have the little extended hammerhead, plus the width of the driveway, I gather that the board is comfortable with that solution. Okay.
Wish they could have done that at the Cumberland Farms over in Depot Street Road. Pain trying to back out of there.
The only other major thing with respect to the waivers, we can talk about those for a minute, would be the request that they not put in curbing around the landscaped islands. I think it's essential that they be put in to protect the landscaping, for one thing. It needs to have something as a stop so that the landscaping isn't running all over the pavement. There's a section of it on the left side next to the larger of the 2 drainage areas which need to have wheel stops because the drainage runs in that direction and it flows over ground beyond the parking spaces into the grass.
Right,
So you can't have curbing there.
right.
But the major areas in front, I believe, should have the curbing around them. And if that triangle, which is right at the corner of the building, incorporated curbing and some landscaping, along with the new one that we're talking about, then that would be one less waiver that would be required, and I think you'd have a better product.
Mr. Rowley, could you touch
Yes, ma'am.
on, when we had the discussion about curbing, especially in the front, as you just mentioned, we talked about, their request for the waiver, and I think the board was not 100% against that, but we did ask about like a Cape Cod berm or something to hold the landscaping in place. And if you could shed some light on that, because we certainly aren't experts in that area, would that work?
Cape Cod berm, even if it's a 12-inch berm, is typically 3 to 4 inches high. It does allow a snowplow to ride over it,
Okay.
which means during the snow plowing season, you could be disturbing that landscaped area. Curbing is a hard, fixed item. It typically has 6 inches of reveal, which gives you a lot more of an area to put that landscaping in and protect it and keep it from running all over the place.
What type of curbing would be suggested? I mean, I'm concerned about concrete curbing. Doesn't seem to last very well in a parking area, and certainly granite curbing is so expensive.
I don't recommend that they have granite curbing. They're gonna need granite curbing out in the highway.
Yes, and they've already
Are you putting
agreed.
the vertical curbing there or the slope edging?
We're still coordinating with DOT on that. I suspect they're gonna want a vertical edge, but we're gonna work that detail out with them.
They did say they were doing granite out in that
Yeah,
area.
that's a requirement.
That's a MassDOT
Yeah,
requirement,
that's a
yeah.
requirement. Concrete curb sections are fine. I have not had that much experience with an extruded concrete curb that has a mixture in it of, to be honest with you, I don't remember what's in there. It's not just concrete. It can be put in one solid length. And I'm not sure whether it has a fiberglass in it or some other admixture that keeps it strong so it doesn't break up. The one type of curb I would not recommend would be asphalt curb, because that breaks up all the time. Asphalt curb is 6 inches high and it looks good when it's first put in, but it just doesn't last. So it ought to be either the standard concrete curb sections, or I would be amenable to the extruded curb, but I don't have much experience with it. If Bola has some information on that they could provide, I'd certainly be willing to look at it.
We use extruded curb quite a bit. In fact, it's made some pretty good steps in towards its durability. A lot of our clients will actually use the extruded curb. One thing that I would advise us to consider as we're looking at putting curbing along the front of the store is that whole apron is flush, including some kind of curbed edge. There'll be a lip right at the front sidewalk, that potential tripping hazard that we wouldn't necessarily want to incorporate along that front sidewalk as it's flush with the pavement. It's a liability and a maintenance issue and a lot of other things that we're not necessarily enthusiastic about entertaining. So if we're going to put some form of hard edging to maintain the landscaping at that, maybe it's a flush curb that gives it a firm edge that's 6 inches wide that defines the landscape bed. But having a reveal at the front of the store is going to interfere with the pedestrian access along that corridor and be a potential liability issue as well.
Oh, you mean at your front sidewalk,
Right.
I think we were talking around the landscape area.
Yeah, I know it was talked about at the front sidewalk as well. Around the landscaping area, it probably would require us to do a little reconfiguring of the grading in there to direct stormwater. The majority of our runoff is being collected on the paved surfaces and being conveyed to the forebay and infiltration basin at the eastern part of the project. We'd have to make sure that the appropriate measures were taken place to get stormwater to continue to sheet flow in that direction.
I think what we're talking in terms of where the curb would be applicable would be along this area and this side.
I think maintaining the wheel stops on that side, I don't necessarily see an issue with that. If the concern is landscaping coming out on the front, maybe we could put in a flush curb on all spots, but curb, define that landscape edge and keep it offset. It's not, that wouldn't impact any of the drainage patterns, and it would still enable the landscaping to be offset from the pavement and defined.
I don't see where those particular areas would affect your drainage.
It won't. I think,
We'll take a look at the curbing issue. I know,
So you think it'd just less of a reveal, is that what you're?
or at the front of the store, I would suggest if we're gonna do a curbing, we do it flush, so that it's not there's no reveal and no tripping hazard.
Either, I don't necessarily agree with that for a couple of reasons. One, it's gonna be in conflict with the plans because it shows a 5-inch difference, 6-inch difference in grade between the top of curb and bottom of curb.
Do we have that?
Yeah. And also, this plan shows that you've got curbing here.
Yeah, that shows a sidewalk on.
Alright.
But I think,
Those are generally, that's the typical Dollar General plan. I'll confirm with their operations guys that they want the reveal at the front. If that's the case, then we'll incorporate a reveal at the landscape bound up front.
Your principal told us that this is the new design, and the only difference we would see would be the bump out for the snow situation.
Okay, I'll confirm that with their group.
I would think that having the raised concrete curb there, that can be put
It's
in
flush at- it's flush
conjunction
at
with the
the pile.
sidewalk. It doesn't have to be extra curb. It simply gets poured in place along with the sidewalk. So it's not like there's a big difference in cost to be doing that. But it does provide you with a little bit additional safety factor from the standpoint that when a car rolls up to it, he's not gonna be rolling up onto the sidewalk. He's gonna be stopping you.
That's exactly where I was heading is, you know, in detail, you show bollards in front of the doorway, but if there's no sidewalk as shown in your plan, there's no 6-inch pit on the front of the building. I'll tell you right now, these people are gonna roll right into the building.
Right. Our plans right now show a 6-inch reveal. I will confirm that with Dollar General if that's how they want to proceed with that. Otherwise, they'll be incorporating the wheel stop or a bollard system to prevent that, but I'll make sure.
Yeah, there's no, it's flush in front of your doors for handicap access,
Right.
obviously.
Right, and we have a transition curb that
And
would
the-
taper down to
And
that access
the
point.
bollards are noted there, for the flush.
Yes, in front of the doorway.
Yeah, there's 6 bollards in front of the doors.
Right, but if you look to the left and you look to the right, there's no bollard shown,
Right,
and if you're saying that it's flush, you need something there.
yeah, I
Unless
don't,
they do the picture.
I don't think that the principal said that to us before. He showed us the picture and said that that was the new design. I think we assumed that it would be tapered to the bollards. So,
We're calling for a reveal in these drawings. I'll just confirm that that's actually, I suspect that it is, but I'll confirm.
Sadie, I'm looking now. Yeah, I'm looking now. Yeah, it shows it in the
On
plans.
page 11,
Yes,
see it?
it shows it,
Tables.
yeah. Which is what he told us. I mean, he,
So, well, I mean, just clarification, now you're taking,
Clarify the detail of that for heavy duty and standard duty asphalt.
what else? You good? You feeling good?
It was both the same.
How'd you get it? Yeah, but where? You don't work in the yard, do you?
so you're taking part of the parking lot to the northwest? To the
I'm
right
sorry?
side, you're taking the front door over to the, pitching it to the right detention basin, is that?
No, the really shallow depression that would be on the west side of the site, or the right side of the plan,
That's, yeah.
that is just a depression that basically you're sloping away from Dollar General, and our neighbor is higher as well, so we didn't want to direct water to the neighbor. So that shallow depression is just there essentially to catch runoff between the two and not direct it to our building or to our neighbor's property. the water from the impervious surfaces, the building rooftop, the sidewalk, and the paved areas is being directed to the 4-bay infiltration basin on the east side of the property.
Do you have a question? I thought somebody raised their hand. All right. I think with those particular changes, we've eliminated our waivers.
Why don't we go through them and maybe we can
Yeah.
confirm that?
Yes. Say what?
So we're gonna bring us one more nationwide carrots first to use every other week through the summer.
Too much, 28.
I'm not thinking so.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Do you want to quickly run through the waiver list and we can, okay.
Please.
So, Mike, you wanna put that?
We have the letter from March 28th from our office that talks about the requested waivers. The first one that was requested was for relief from the 2-foot berm at the front of the property. And our proposal was to incorporate a sufficient landscape buffer along the project frontage in lieu of the 2-foot berm. I know there's been some discussion tonight about the berm. I don't know where we landed on the solution to that. Is the board still amendable to the granting of that waiver?
Well, the question has arisen whether we have the authority to grant the waiver. If you heard the section that Charlie quoted, that these provisions were not waivable by this board.
I recall, if memory serves correctly, I believe there was a discussion amongst the building official as well as the planning board, and both of which determined that in their respective judgments that the board was in fact able to grant waivers for the items that we had requested. And in fact had done so in the past on unrelated projects.
Well, that was gonna be my next comment. I can't think of anywhere where we've actually had that 2-foot berm, so to speak, that grade change in the front aisle like that.
And that's all it has to be. It's not one of these things that goes up abruptly. I mean, it can be incorporated into the whole grading of the landscape island. So, I forget how wide the island is, it's 13, 14 feet, something like that. There's plenty of room to incorporate the extra 2 feet just into the grading, so you hardly will ever see it, but it's there. It's not like it's gonna be a vertical 2-foot barrier, it's gonna be gradual.
Say there's probably enough material on site to accomplish that.
I'm sure.
So then we want to see that incorporated into the plan set? Okay. The second one was regarding the curbing. And from what I understand tonight, what we'd like to see is curbing at the island we're going to incorporate at the front of the store, in addition to a curbed edge along the bottom interface that's immediate to Cranberry Highway.
And I believe you have to return it on the right-hand side, return it to your sidewalk.
Run it along, well, plan right as it goes up to the sidewalk.
Yeah. precast concrete or
Extruded?
extruded on site would be satisfactory.
Okay.
Anybody object to that?
The interior landscaping one, I think, is reasonably straightforward here, and we've discussed previously.
I think we've accommodated that with the
Okay.
removal of the parking spaces and a little additional landscaping on the corner and the
Yes.
in fact, I think that's kind of the little breakup that we were looking previously, we were looking for something to kind of break up the front of the store, and that probably accomplished it.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, so they're gonna landscape the 2 spaces being removed, and then to the left of the store where that pie shape is, that will be landscaped as well? Is that?
No, the pie-shaped area that's in there, that's intended for a truck swing. And so the truck, when it loads, will actually be encroaching on that striped area. It's there to delineate parking, but we need it in order to accommodate the turning movements of the vehicle. So making it a landscape down would be in conflict with that.
What size is the truck again?
Full-size WB67.
I can see where that would be.
Why would that be a problem to make that turn if that was landscaped? Because you've got a parking space on both sides of that. They're not gonna be able to back over that striped space if there's a car there.
The loading operations won't occur while the store is operating. It usually occurs in the morning.
Right, that's what we were told.
Yeah. And it's usually once a week.
Once a week, he said 1 truck once a week.
Yeah. So they leave that space open for that truck to maneuver and facilitate loading operations. I think the inclusion of a landscape down in the front of the store, I think that's a good inclusion to the site plan. I think it meets the spirit and intent of that requirement.
It is a little lopsided, but
Right. It look a little bit weird from the air, right?
I guess I'm still a little bit unsure as to how that will provide extra
Yes.
turning
Friday morning.
for a box trailer, because if the box trailer comes in there, he's gonna have to make the swing to get in the parking area. And he'll straighten out so that he can make the backing up to get back into where the loading dock is area. I don't understand how that becomes an issue.
It was explained to us that he was gonna go in the large entrance way,
Right,
pull in front of the store, and then back down around the corner.
right.
I'm not a truck driver, so I don't know
It's-
exactly how
yeah,
hard that
I'd like
is.
to see a turning movement on that. I don't understand how that's gonna be a complication for him to be able to get his truck in off the highway with the 30-foot driveway that he's got, so he can straighten it out and then back that trailer around to get into the back. I don't see how that's helping him at all.
Well, I just give you, that same little triangular island is one that they enforced over at the Brown's
Brown's.
Liquors.
I know.
And I gotta tell you, I watch cars drive over that all the time. That little island's a pain in the neck, not to me, but I mean, people drive over it all the time, so do what you're gonna do there.
Is it landscaped or is it just flush, John?
No, it's curved and.
It's curved?
It's got mulch, and there used to be bushes, there were no bushes.
Well,
We did require that.
You did, you
even the one that we come up with, after.
Well, that's, the back one, we shrunk it down to
So
half
that way
of
it's
its
going around the building.
depth to make it easier for them.
the back one.
Yes,
Yeah, and I think that worked, but that one in the front, you kill
Well,
yourself
yeah.
watching people. How do you drive over that?
Is it as bad as Main Street?
Mr. Rowley, could that be shrunk to, or do you think that maybe by showing that driving radius is the answer?
it's hard to picture it without seeing the turning movements of the truck. He's talking about a tractor trailer, so depending on the actual length of the wheelbase and so forth, it's hard to see what that turning movement would be.
I believe the truck's about 73 feet long from cab to rear.
Right.
Yeah, that's not 73 feet from, unless the wheels are way at the very end of the box.
Oh, right,
You know,
yeah.
You're not getting that much of a wheelbase between the tractor and where the wheels are.
We can do a turning move, we can do a turning movement for that.
If you could provide that, it would help me out to understand it. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of looking a little bit more attractive in the front, along with the island that you agreed to put in. And with that extra width that you've got, which is 30 feet there and 36 over on the side, I just don't see how that's going to become an impediment to a truck being able to back in there. But
We can show that.
I'm willing to,
Well, yeah,
whatever the traffic
if you could
movement
do
show.
that, that'd be good, because it looks like you're gonna need that clear just to, if you're going eastbound, just turning in there with a truck, you're gonna need that area.
We'll show the loading movements for that maneuver.
Thank you.
And what, next
So
one?
the solution would be to
Say it again.
pull in 28 back in,
What?
back in off the arrow.
Who you actor?
I'm not sure that you even need this one. This one. When we're talking about 4 rows of parking, we're talking about. The islands. Yeah, I don't even think that's a waiver that you need.
Okay. Mr. Rowley and I were just discussing 1062.1, item A, which was providing a waiver for landscape strip between every 4 rows of parking. Mr. Rowley provided some clarification as to that requirement. He was saying that as you're looking at the parking, it would be, vertical rows of parking, and it would be 4 of them, which, of course, as you look at our site plan, we don't have that.
I think that's
So-
the way we've interpreted it, that we.
Okay, so we could certainly amend. I think if everybody's in agreement that that's the interpretation of it, that waiver would no longer be required.
Right.
The one.
I think at that time, we didn't think it applied to this particular layout.
Okay. So I'll make sure that gets updated accordingly.
You might even take a look at C, item C under that, the third one. I don't know that that needs to apply either, because you've got landscaping across the front and the islands that are across the front. You've got landscaping around the west side of the building and around that fire retention area that's there. You've also got landscaping in between the retention area and the parking that's on the left side of the building. And with the addition of the landscaping on the right front and the possibility of the landscaping in the island, I think that item is also covered. I don't think it's essential to ask for a waiver on that. I think that item B is more appropriate to large parking lots, like the Walmart parking lot. I don't think that this particular parking lot is necessarily in that sort of a category, so I'm not even sure that that waiver is required.
Yeah, I think the intent of that is to break up large parking areas, which,
We don't need all of these. They won't be 15 and a half. Right. So that's gonna be 13. This is gonna be, and this is gonna be 11. And this is gonna be.
So, take my GTO,
I think it's giving you some flexibility.
What we were just discussing a little bit more detail, item C, that requires the landscaping every 15 spaces or so. With the adjustments that we're gonna make to the site plan, that number will drop to 14 along the front of the store. That's, a technicality, but wouldn't put us into that waiver anyway, so by nature of the changes we're making to the site plan, that waiver request would drop off the list as well.
The The next one, which is 1062.3, talks about parking areas containing 25 or more spaces with landscaped islands. I think by putting in the island in the right front, and if there's a possibility, you can put the other one in the corner, that satisfies that requirement. As I've said, there's landscape islands on the perimeter, and I think that that's satisfied. And I think it would be safe to say that the next one, the tree radius having 15 feet at the trunk at the center and so forth. Trees have a odd tendency to grow and expand, so that the shaded area that you're talking about increases as the tree gets older typically. I don't have a particular issue about that. I leave that up to the board.
So if I'm understanding correctly what we're gonna do, we'll take a look at the first waiver that was requested for we'll grade in the 2-foot berm. We'll make it as gentle as possible along the frontage on Cranberry Highway. We'll add the curbing as requested along the areas we've already talked about. I think as a technical requirement, we would still need the waiver because we're not gonna have curbing along the detention pond, but we are going to have the vehicle barriers along that interface with the landscaping edge, so we'll still need to have that waiver request, but I think that compromise we've reached is a pretty good one.
And the purpose of those is to allow the sheathing water on the parking lot to continue to the retention area, correct?
Correct.
I
As
think our
opposed-
bylaw makes reference to low impact method.
It does, and because the area to the east is flowing into that retention area, you can't put a curb there,
Yeah.
because you're not gonna be able to get rid of the water.
I think as a technical matter, I don't think you need it.
So I don't think we need it there. I would argue for it on the west side, because I think it makes it more compatible with the rest of the site.
Mhm.
But on that particular side, you don't want it, because you won't be able to get the water over there where you're gonna
And that
show
was
it.
their intention.
Yeah.
My question would be, just as a matter of process and interpretation, I wanna make sure I'm doing things correctly. As I read the section 934, it says curbing shall be placed at the edges of surfaced areas except driveways. And just as a technical standpoint, to make sure that nobody can get in there and dig it, I don't consider that edge to be a driveway. So if the board is still in agreement that the waiver is acceptable, I'd rather request it and be all right covered under that relief. If it's technically not a driveway, I agree that it's a good approach to handling stormwater. So to make sure that the legality, and I'm not pretending to be an attorney, but we're just covered. Mr. Riley, do you agree with that assessment, or?
I would agree. It probably should be a condition, or some mention of it, at least in the special permit, that we've agreed to the understanding of it, that the only place that curbing is not required is against the easterly side, where the stormwater is required to go into the drainage area. And it's a part of the recommended practices for low-impact development anyway. So long as it's mentioned somewhere, I think both parties will be protected there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to handle it.
Okay, so we would officially take it off the waiver request, and then the board, as a condition of approval, would include some language in there that references that decision?
Note that it's part of the drainage plan, drainage system.
Okay, okay.
I'm not a lawyer either, by the way.
No, I don't, nor do I actually have any intention to be.
Who is?
So, one thing that, I've had similar type
I don't care.
sites in Warren.
Grab the mic, Charlie, just so we're pretty good.
Generally, the area in front of the building is the fire lane to give that fire access. In this case, we're parking. You have the island in front, in this area here. Somehow that's got to be painted with no parking, because I know people, human nature, they're going to pull in, park right here, parallel with that front island, and run in the store. People, if it's raining or whatever, they don't want to park over here and walk around. That's just what they do. So in real life situation, that area here and here is somehow got to be lined out and marked no parking, so that people don't get in the habit of parking in those areas. Because if they do, then it's really gonna make a problem with entry and egress from that site.
I agree with that, Charlie. As a matter of fact, I think you'll see that in front of the Benny store, I think it's striped off that
Yeah.
way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people are lazy.
They're pushing a few cars.
Uh-huh.
Will they
I
put
said,
that-
plus they
Yeah.
pile up all this shit in the front.
No, we did have the fire department review, and I believe in the package is a letter from them
Yes.
saying that everything's okay, but if we have to take a look at adding striping along the bottom run, I don't see that being an issue.
From a property damage issue, alone, people backing into cars that they didn't know was behind them.
Yeah,
It's
we
probably
could,
a good idea.
we could delineate something there.
Yeah, you wanna recommend a width on that, Charlie?
Four 4 feet, 5 feet, just, again, so people don't get in the, think that, gee, that's an easy place, I can pull in, park there, run in the
Right.
store, run out. You know, I just know human nature being what it is. That's what people do.
5 feet.
And if the other parking place is Christmas time or whatever, during busy shopping times, and if a lot of the spots are taken, they're gonna park right along there. That's what's gonna happen.
Because I would think that the left side would be kind of your employee parking.
That'd be the intent, but it's not this, you're not gonna see a high volume of employees at the store.
We've agreed that 5 feet is good.
I think that covers us, yeah, right? Yeah, I think we're covered with that. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a second just to make sure I understand the adjustments we're gonna make to the site plan, so I'm clear. The first one will be the relocation of a couple of parking spaces up front to the previously striped areas, and then adding a landscape island that would be curbed. We're going to take a look at curbing along the frontage on Cranberry Highway as long as that edge, we'll call it plan right, that would interface with the end of the sidewalk. We're gonna provide a turning graphic showing the WB 67 movements in the site and then subsequently backing up to do its loading operations. And then we talked about adding a 5-foot wide striped area along the bottom of the drive aisle up front, identifying that as a no parking area or fire lane.
Mr. Rowley, the information you received in reference to the front of the building satisfies the requirements that you were referencing in reference to the 100 feet of clear span of building, and is that correct or is that not correct?
I think are you referring to this picture
Well,
here?
yeah, and with the bump out for the snow situation, I guess my question is, when we met with the principal, and he informed us that was the only design Dollar General will accept, I'm
think
questioning at this point, you know, do you have other thoughts, and how will they work?
There are recommended things in the architectural standards of the zoning bylaw as suggested options. The idea would be that this piece of the building here and this piece of the building here, being a long, flat surface, should somehow be broken up by some other vertical line. Now, whether that means, one way to do it would be to perhaps protrude the block in 2 or 3 places, so that you're not getting a full flat surface, but you're getting some irregular surface along with it.
Right.
That's an architectural feature that I think probably should be looked at.
By having
the
the bump
architect?
out, though, at the vestibule, does that satisfy that requirement? Because as they said to us, they were gonna have that bump out for the snow situation. Does that,
It might, not seeing it here, I'm
right,
not sure exactly what it would look
the
like.
glass area, as it was explained to us, and
Yeah.
I don't know the exact dimensions, but it comes out 3 feet, I thought he said. and then goes straight across. I'm not quite sure if that was correct, 3 feet or 4
I
feet.
guess it could, it's a matter of interpretation by your board. I was only bringing up the fact that the requirements say anything over that 100 feet, especially, needs to have some breakup of that 100-foot section, not have a long wall. If you feel that that satisfies the requirement, I have no problem with that. I was simply raising it as an issue to bring to your attention.
Well, we had discussed it at kind of great length because we thought the building was very blah, and he did bring it to our attention that the front will jettison out a little bit for that snow situation, so.
Does the roof framing for this building go left and right?
No, it comes off the back.
It shows it here.
Where's the original?
I just can't remember if he said 3 feet or 4 feet.
The thing is that
I'm sorry, say it again?
No, I'm wondering.
I read the dimensions, it shows a 9-foot sidewalk at the front with a 5-foot concrete, so that means the bump out of glass is 4 feet.
4 feet. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
if you take it proportionally, so it takes almost a quarter of the building, so it breaks that.
Right.
I
mean, I think-
feet up.
Right, I think it satisfies the requirement.
Hundred. Oh, no, it's a little bit before the number.
Greg said 100 feet, the building's longer than that, the building's 100 feet.
How long is the front of the building?
Sorry?
The front of the building, how long
I
is
believe
it?
it's about 130 feet.
And the glass area, do you have any idea how wide that is?
It's about 3 spaces wide, maybe, or?
Yeah.
More than that. Let's see, we got 24,
Slightly larger than 30 feet.
yeah,
Okay.
30, 35 feet, something like that. Maybe a third of the, well, it's less than a third of the total length.
Thank you. And Charlie, I don't know if you heard John, but he said that that sticks out 4 feet from the front of the building,
Yeah, I know.
based on his calculations.
Yeah, it's a 9-foot sidewalk and then 5 feet in front of the vestibule, so it would stick out 4. Yeah. The length, I was just gonna check to see what that was. I would guess about 30 feet.
So would that satisfy what you've been,
I think that's your call.
I don't see the detail on how that ties into the building, there's just a little shed roof on it. Is it-
No, I can ask if they have a updated version of that 3D thing. I don't know if that's available or not, but I believe it's just an extension of the building, the rooftop, just a,
Bump out the, make a little mansard there over
yeah,
It's probably
extension.
It's probably a canopy.
It's an extension, it's just a airlock for the building code requirements, and
the, so we just
Yeah.
kick that roof out a little bit for the upper vertical side.
that'd be all right.
And again, I apologize for getting a peer review result at such a late date.
I don't know that anything we've talked about tonight is a big issue. I think we can easily address these and then in turn update the plans accordingly, and we'll be in good shape.
Okay.
I'm gonna touch base with Charlie before he comes, before the plans come back.
You want to forward that turning radius?
For the truck movement,
Yeah.
I think if it's okay with the board, we'll continue to coordinate directly with Mr. Rowley and make sure everybody's on the same page and everything has been appropriately addressed. And once we're at a level where we both agree, we can, and it shouldn't take long, these changes are pretty minor. We can incorporate those in the plan set, work with Mr. Rowley, and
I
then
hope your client feels the same.
I don't see, I mean, these are relatively small. If for some reason they give me any kind of resistance, we'll certainly bring that to your attention.
Very good.
Hey,
I'm
if
going
he
to
gets- If he gets tested, tell him to come back.
If what?
And come back up, come back up. He's
If he gets
tested.
testy? Yeah.
I'm going to assume that the turning movements that I see on that template are gonna show the tractor running over that little triangle place. I'd like to see it, pull down to the tightest that it can be, so that we're sure that we don't have any opportunity to get an island there. If it turns out that way and there's no way to get around it, so be it.
Well, I think,
I'd like to see it, but if it can't happen, it can't happen.
I think the issue, to me, more, not so much backing around it, it's pulling in. If you're eastbound and you try to make that U-turn, I don't see how you can get in there without running over that space, but.
That's, I guess, what we wanna see.
Yeah.
See the turning movements from both directions. And we can then, once the truck is in there, the tire track would be good to see as it's
Without
backing
backing
up.
out across every highway, which some people have done in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah. You wanna see it coming from, you wanna see it turning in from the eastbound lanes, because that's gonna be the toughest for them to make that U-turn. And then you'll wanna see it from the westbound lanes to see how that applies also. And then what the tractor, the trailer would be, and the tractor would be as it's making the turn to back up to the loading dock.
I don't believe we anticipate vehicles entering from an eastbound approach. The trucks aren't gonna be doing that. They should be using the eastern entrance coming in like that, pulling forward parallel along the Dollar General building and then reversing to get into the loading dock and then exiting along the same driveway. We wouldn't, nor could they make the movement to come in that secondary access point.
I don't mean there, I
No,
mean,
that's-
coming down Cartwright Highway.
If you're going
Making
eastbound.
a
Oh,
right
to make that
Highway,
U-turn
Making a
move?
right turn in.
It's,
We can show that. That's gonna be, you're gonna have a couple of back up and go forward things in there if they
Yeah.
can make that move at all. But I suspect the movement is gonna be coming westbound, pulling in, and then backing up. I don't know that we're gonna be able to do, well, I can assure you, a 73-foot-long truck's not gonna come in and pull a 180-degree movement to get in there.
That's what I'm saying, you'd be looking
Yeah.
to hit the building.
Yeah, it's gonna,
one thing you could look at would be the returns on the island, once you get into the parking area. I think there's a light pole that's right close by. It might be that you'd have to increase the radius of that island a little bit, so he's not running over that.
for a 180-degree turn?
No,
Oh, for the
even,
westbound.
even for a truck coming this way and making that turn in that direction, to keep his trailer from running over that island corner, you might have to increase the radius of that.
Yeah, we'll take a look
We'll
at
take a
the
look
truck
at it.
movements, and then if there's anything that needs to be adjusted to accommodate it, we will. And we'll work directly with Mr. Rowley if that's okay, and obviously keeping the board in the loop on our communications.
We want your site to work.
What's that?
We want your site to work.
So do we.
Would the 23rd be too much to expect, or?
23rd?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's unfair. Is that 2 weeks from today, right?
2 weeks.
That's fine by me.
Yeah, that works for us as well.
And again, I apologize for bringing this in at such a late date. Guess we're all set.
Okay, well, good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We also have a notice of project change regarding the Maple Park wall site, Wareham Water Department.
Emails, so just have
Okay.
emails.
Fire
No, Nathaniel has my emails.
What are they doing?
Emails stuff directly to me.
They made some changes in their application
I
for
really
the.
appreciate it. Very good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I think we're about there now.
I think so.
Yeah.
proposed well site in Maple Park. I would have to say there was some errors in the original application. It says, .975 acres were incorrectly reported. Should be 2.74 acres. That's a little bit of a anyway, it's just a change in what's,
Thank you very much.
thank you. I guess the big change is how the utilities are gonna get there. There was a initial agreement with the previous property owner as to how the utilities would get there, and then the ownership changed and there was a dispute, so they had to redesign. But this is just a notification, let me see.
Who drew those plans?
Hmm?
Who drew the plan?
Well, some of it was Kleinfelder as the engineer, which is formerly SAA. Let's see.
How's that with you, George?
Thank you, Charlie.
Night, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
Hey, so you had another trailer, huh? Another container?
Yeah,
Right.
to Israel.
Another one?
Mm.
Well, you buy a lot of stuff over there. And motors or
No,
sheet metal?
mostly sheet metal stuff.
I don't know that we,
You know, who's ordering that stuff? Mostly body shops, repair shops and stuff?
One customer, he's a
yeah, I don't
parts
think that
distributor
we
in
did
Israel. He supplies all the shops.
And he can't buy directly from GM.
He was actually a GM dealer,
well, you know, I kind of
In Israel.
remember us talking
In
about it
Israel?
might have been
and
at the fire
GM
district.
pulled the plug on most of the dealers in the country. So we sit down, it's
How's your 55 doing?
good. Good, the guy's away right now, but
You ready for the road almost?
no, ready to go to the upholstery. Got the
I
fabricators
don't
right
know
now.
why this is, there's a planning
It's
board
good.
notice of decision from the town of
So we'll
Plymouth
keep that one
stapled
and
to this, is that because it's in my
I think I'm gonna keep it for a
correspondence?
while. I like that one.
I don't know, Alan, what are we gonna do with this guy? Not much.
No.
He's going to Georgia. You'll be coming back with Georgian accent. Peach
Y'all.
plates in your car.
Y'all,
Peach plates.
yeah, yeah.
Pecans too. Yeah,
Y'all.
they're good. My
Fried nuts.
wife's grandfather used to have family down there. Used to go down there and bring it back. Shopping there one time with fresh ones. Oh man, I was in heaven. They're a lot different than what you buy in the store. I'll tell you that.
peanuts.
Hey,
So the peanuts I didn't care for too much.
son of a gun, I got the description of the historic.
Yep. Is that what that thing was? That map?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
What is it?
Historic district. Why is, you got the institutional district, right? Where the hell did I just put that piece of shit?
Where is it?
It's in there. It's in there with all that maps on. So is Hansel
Narrows Historic, Narrows Historic District.
Now, the pizza, the Chinese restaurant was there, right? Or was that the apartment building?
No, that's, that last house is the doctor's house there. The doctor was there.
Gleason.
No, one on Main Street next to the Chinese restaurant.
Oh, that's the chiropractor, I know.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of who the original.
I don't remember that one. To the left of the Chinese restaurant.
It's the next building to the right of the homestead.
Yes, and there's a building in the back,
Yeah.
an apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a house up there.
So all of Bessie Park and all the riverfront is not in the,
It'll be interesting to see what
which is
happens
a
in
good thing.
Marina. What's his name?
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did. Baker. My favorite member is up for shape tomorrow. Who? Baker, guy who owns the old Queen Lumber. He's a sick man. Where's that? Where the light ship is.
Oh.
Baker.
Oh, the man that owns the light ship?
Yeah, he's not too healthy. He's
I tried to buy that. I tried to buy the light ship.
too bad. It's a lot of property. He's got a lot of property in Plymouth. Yeah, on the island, Marshfield. He just bought the marina next to it for his grandson, next to the other marina they own, Marco Island. he has a bunch.
Anyway,
He's an eccentric guy. Yes, he is. He's out of the acting.
just so Bob doesn't fall asleep on us over there, that's all I have on the agenda. Is there any?
Charlie, you reopened or?
No, I'm not.
What?
I'm not.
You serious?
Serious.
Oh, man.
When do you?
I know you want to be fire chief in the new fire district, where on.
What?
I guarantee you,
You're
I
joining
don't
the
want
two
that.
water districts.
Yeah?
Yep, we're on it, water district.
Could you, if we don't wrap up these site plans, could you stay on till we do?
You'd have to get
Again, the appointment I have runs out.
Yeah, June 30th. Well, the thing is,
My appointment runs out June
would
30th.
you consider? Did you apply? Getting
No one
reappointed
told me it ran out.
and resign? Are you sure it's
running out? I don't know.
Did you forget to say that you
No.
are?
But no one's notified me.
They're supposed to notify you.
I'm not sure. My card's on my desk.
Yeah, my present appointment runs out June 30th. So we have this meeting, we have the meeting the 23rd.
23rd.
Is there a chance we're gonna wrap this up on the 23rd?
I hope so.
If
No,
that's-
it
if
may
that's
not-
the-
it
if
may
that's
not
the
be-
case,
It may not be an issue.
it's
Can
a
you,
moot point.
can you reapply and tender a resignation shortly after to finish?
Resign anytime you want.
I was afraid we're gonna
Would-
suck him in.
You won't accept it, that's what I just said.
Can you, can,
Yeah, I did tell Claire. Claire Smith contacted me last week about it, and I told her I'd let her know in the next week or 10 days. I made that decision. I was gonna send her an email, give her a call, and let her know my decision. It just seems, to get reappointed for 3 years and then 2 weeks later resign is kind of.
but at least you're able to finish up a few things that,
That's just a technicality, basically.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I mean,
Because we're gonna have this one in Robinson,
right.
You may not have. You may not have to do it. You might be able
I'll talk to Claire about it.
I mean, you could ask for.
Mr. Chairman, You said that you think that someone else is up for a reappointment?
Yeah,
Mike.
some, was it
Yeah.
you?
Mike Baptiste, I believe this. You sure about that?
I think Claire told me that it was two of us. I thought she said Mike and myself. Ran
Don't
out.
look at me. I don't know. No one's notified me. And they can find me.
You might want to, you might want to contact Claire and ask her.
Weren't you reappointed last year?
I think so.
Again, I don't know. I can
The
ask
email I
her.
got was, I haven't heard from Michael and Charlie, but I didn't know which Michaels she was referring to. So.
What do you mean nobody can find me?
Oh my God. You're like the Phantom. Give me, what phone number can you be reached at? What email address?
What did I give you last?
I don't even know where you live.
Mike who?
Yeah.
Charlie Kluge is up and Mike Baptiste Senior is up.
Holy shit.
You gonna go apply?
I gotta apply?
You gotta send a note into the selectman's office so it goes to Claire.
I gotta go
Go
for
for an email to the appointing authority.
You have to send an email into Janet Wilson, ask them to be reappointed to the planning board, so she can forward Claire from the appointing authority.
Don't you know?
What do you think?
I think you should reapply.
Can you deal with
You
me for another?
reapply, you get a vehicle.
Yeah.
What?
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 Hey, Alan, now does he go through the selectman's office, or this is appointed by the moderator? Doesn't he contact the moderator?
You still send it to the selectman's office, so they forward it to the appointing authority. The finance committee, planning board, and capital planning, they all go through the appointing authority of the three members. Everybody else is through the selectmen. It's no big deal.
She's not gonna support me, George, if I wanna come for another 3?
Actually, I believe the notice went out to all the chairmen to let
Yes, I don't
tell
know.
their members if they have to apply to send it in. The other three are up next year.
You spent 3 years already?
George's and Mikey's, they're all up next year, June.
Any prospects got their names out there, wanna see them on the board?
We did have a very promising one a while back, but then when I asked for the information to get back to me, it didn't. I don't know if we lost Brenda then or what, but.
Who?
Yes. I don't know if she's watching, but when are you coming back?
Brenda.
Is this on
Yeah.
TV?
Extra?
Is this on TV?
No, Sampson.
It is.
Oh, do you remember the planning board?
Going to be a planning board secretary.
Oh, she heard her back, huh? You got me confused, man. Hey, motion to adjourn.
Second.
I can't take this shit anymore. You guys got me all confused here.
Somebody's got to go wake up Bobby.
Bob, are you awake?
Motion on the floor in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 10:57.
9:57.
9:57.
9:57.